morning and welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first live daily show, not daily, I gotta stop saying daily, it's not daily anymore, first live Monday, Wednesday, Friday show on YouTube every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I really need to work on my new opening, don't I? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we do a live show. How's that sound? It is about photo, video, photography, streaming, anything with a camera on it type of topics. And today we're doing a Q&A show. Every other Monday we do a Q&A where I go back through the last 2 weeks worth of comments on the YouTubes and find the really good, tough questions that I can't answer quickly, and bring them into the show. And I've got I think 5 or 6 of them here today, some good ones. So we are going to go straight into the questions. Okay, so here's just a little rigmarole for those watching live. If you got a comment, you got feedback, a question, a response to something, anything to add into the question that is at hand, the question we are answering, by all means, drop it into the chat. Be quick about it. We've got the low latency streaming chat thing on, so your chat should go up pretty quickly. But if your question is not related to this, I will ignore it because I'm going to basically cut these up and upload them separately. No one's going to see this part of the video, incidentally. Just it's one of those kind of days. Yeah, if your question is not related to that question that we're talking about, or your comment, your feedback, whatever, then it will get skipped. So just make my life a little bit easier and try and keep your questions to the specific thing that we're doing here. If you have questions that are totally unrelated, save those for another day, or drop them into the comments later on, and we'll address it on another show. But we're going to try and keep this to the topic, keep it as concise and neat as we possibly can. Sound good? Excellent. So we're going to do a little bit of pausing during the recording of this one, because I'm going to slice and dice this thing up later. But that's all right. All right, and I'll record a proper intro later. It's all good. Let's just do this thing. Our first question is coming in from Jan Garcia. Let's take a look at the question here. Jan asks, I would like to know if shooting with electronic shutter instead of mechanical shutter influences image quality, dynamic range, or color. I already know that there are banding, I think it's called, problems when shooting certain high-speed objects, and also some light flickering under artificial light. However, I'd like to know if shooting under natural light portraits, landscape, street, if there are any problems or loss of image quality. This is a really good question because there actually used to be. It used to be that you had a lower quality image recording when you were shooting electronic shutter versus mechanical shutter. And this was, I want to say this was addressed back in the era of the GX8. For some reason in my head, that's where it's at. But as far as my knowledge, my understanding, there should not be any quality difference anymore between whichever one you're shooting. There are obviously advantages and disadvantages to either one. We've discussed this before. We'll put a link up to a show up here. I did a whole show about electronic shutter, so we'll do that up there. And there, in that show, we also show an example, which is what Jan is asking about here. There is, I'm just going to kind of go over this briefly because we did do the whole show about it, so be sure to watch that one. But when you're doing electronic shutter, the entire frame is not exposed at once. The entire frame is exposed line by line. It's very fast. I mean, it can do it at 8,000ths of a second, right? So it's very fast. But it is line by line. And if you have a subject that is moving very, very quickly, and in the video that's already linked up here, the subject that I photographed that I showed there is propeller blades, obviously moving very fast, and you can see all kinds of weird distortion in the blades. That's because it's basically a line gets written, but now the subject moves, a line gets written again, the subject has moved, the line gets written again, and you get weird bending and distortion kind of things happening. It only shows up in really, really high-speed subjects, though, so most use cases it is not going to be an issue. The banding you're talking about is most likely going to show up in your video. If you get a band, I guess you technically could get a band at a slow enough shutter speed if you're shooting still photography, electronic shutter. It would have to be, I think it'd have to be under a 60th of a second if you're shooting NTSC in 60 hertz electronic areas, or North America. If you're shooting in Europe, it'd be a 50 hertz cycle, so shooting 25p. If you're shooting below 60th or 50th of a second, then I suppose you could get a band, a darker band or a brighter band. I think it would be a darker band showing up in the shot. I'd have to experiment with that, but if you're above that shutter speed, you shouldn't see it. Then it should not be an issue. So that's really it. The other disadvantage of shooting electronic, of course, is you can't use strobe. That's one of the biggies. But if you're shooting natural light, then it doesn't matter. So again, to my knowledge, image quality is the same across both now. That was something that was fixed quite a while ago. And the motion, the funky effects in the motion is just something that happens. And again, watch that video. And that's that. That is the first question. All right, now we're going to move on to question number 2. Oh, let me look at the questions. Oh, comments, sorry. Oh, good, nothing on that. Good. Didn't screw that one up. All right, next one. Our second question today is coming in from Boris D. Boris says, I haven't been able to show the autofocus area display in version 2. It's activated. I'm in autofocus continuous. Tried to push the display several times. I'm not using external monitor, however. Okay, Boris, so the external monitor does not matter. What Boris is asking about, at least I think I know what he's asking about, is there is a new feature in version 2 of the firmware update for the GH5, which allows you to see the focus area, seeing the little cells on screen at all times of what you have defined as your focus area. And this is exceptionally handy when you're shooting with a custom mode. You've drawn your own pattern, or you're using one of the funky patterns. You're using like a vertical strip or something. Really, really cool. But he's not seeing it. And I can probably guess as to why. It only shows up in still photography. I don't know why. I don't know why, but it only shows up in still photography mode. When you're in video mode, you don't see it. So let me show you what we are talking about here. Let's make sure that everything is on and syncing up, and I will show you. Come on, there we go. Precisely what I mean. So you're going to see a. Let's just put this out of focus so you're not looking at something too bizarre. Well, that's not going to work very well with this lens. Oh well. You're looking at my switching thing in front of me. It doesn't matter. Let's go to here. Okay. So what he's talking about, let me go, I guess I do need to be in autofocus, don't I? If I go into, see, custom multi, and so you see the pattern, it's got this kind of diamond-ish shaped pattern there. We want to be able to see that, but we're not seeing the pattern right now, right? Like, where's the pattern? He's saying I hit the display mode, cycle through that, it didn't show up, did not show up, did not show up. Okay, I'm in video mode now. Let me switch over to still photography mode, and look, there's the pattern. See that little pattern in there? That's what he's looking for, as far as I understand the question. If I go into the autofocus control and I say, let's do a different autofocus area, let's not move it. Let's do like, I don't know, let's do this totally different pattern there, horizontal pattern. There again, you have those lines in there. So that's what we're talking about. If you make a totally custom one, let's go back into here. Let's do custom. We're going to do a custom pattern. We'll do our own, not save. Let's make one, and I'm just going to draw on the screen with my finger. Okay, so there's my custom pattern. Very odd custom pattern, but it is what it is. And now you see that pattern there as well. However, as soon as I switch over to video mode, it goes away. I don't know why that happens. It certainly seems like something we would like to have on both still and video mode, but that is the case. It only shows up in the still mode. So hopefully that is the problem that you're running into. You're expecting to see it in video, understandably so, but you're not. Switch over to still mode and you will see it. And that is all there is to that. See if there's any other questions related to that. Nothing in the comments. All right, well, let's move on to question number 3. Question 3 comes in from codetap, asking, how do you record the screen of the GH5? This is a very good question. So there's recording the screen, which is the same thing as I'm doing here, where I'm outputting the screen and you're seeing this, and you're seeing what my camera sees along with all my menus and everything else in there. So this is actually a really easy thing to do. It's a feature that's built into the camera. This is not any kind of extra thing you have to add. I'm simply plugging in the HDMI cable out, so I'm getting my video feed out. And then a very important part of this is you go into your settings and see, I've got mine saved under my custom settings. It's called HDMI record output. That's the setting that you need. And I believe it's under here. Let's see here. Where is it? Yep, there it is. It's on the, so that would be the motion picture menu. And then on page 4 of 4, HDMI record output. If you use it all the time like I do, then you can add it in as a my setting here, one of the custom settings. And this allows you to toggle the info display on or off. So if I turn this off, now you get nothing. So you see none of the data on there. You're just seeing what the camera sees, and that's it. As soon as I turn that back on, and let me cycle through my menus, which you can't see. There we go. Now that it's back on, now you see everything. You see all the display, basically the same stuff as I cycle through the display button on there that you would see if you're looking at the back of the camera. So this is a really, really great feature for education. This is how I use it all the time on this show, in recorded courses that I've done. Anywhere where I want to show how the camera operations work, this is a brilliant capability to have. If you are recording externally for, you're actually recording the video content, right? Because you want to shoot externally using something like an Atomos recorder, and you want to be able to capture, whether you're just because you want to capture ProRes or because you want to capture full 4K 60p 10-bit, which is something you can only do externally, then you want to make sure you turn that off, right? remember, whatever's coming out of the HDMI display is what gets recorded. If you have that info display on, you plug it into your Atomos and you hit record, that info is going to show up on that image. So unless you specifically want that info on there because you're doing education like I am, then you want to make sure you turn that off. Don't accidentally leave that on. I've never done that on a production shoot, ever, but it would be a bad idea to do. Let's see here. Any other questions on here? Nothing else coming up. Oh, okay, well, here's a kind of related question. I'll take this one. Hybrid Life says, do you know an app to use the phone as a monitor? Okay, so there's a couple things here. There is, first of all, the Panasonic Image app will allow you to see the image. It's not very high resolution, but you have all kinds of control over the camera. There's another third-party app that apparently does this. Let me see if I can find it really quick. If I don't find it very quickly, I'm going to move on. But I think someone just asked me about it, and I looked it up, and it turned out that I already had it installed, but I haven't used it yet. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. Yeah. Now, there is another third-party app out there that will allow you to preview the screen on here. No, I can't. Oh, Field Monitor. There we go. An app called Field Monitor. I haven't played with it yet, so I don't know how well it works, but I have heard that it does work with this camera. So that's something to look into. If you want something that's tethered, that gives you a bit more quality and more real time, there's a cable that I backed on Kickstarter that I haven't got yet. It was funded, not yet shipping, which works with Android devices. And in their Kickstarter, they said they will have an update to work with iOS devices at some point later. Now, I don't actually buy that because the way that the iPhone works, my understanding is that there is no ability to send a video signal into the iPhone, which is what this would need. You can go out, but there's no way to go in. That's my understanding. How this company thinks they're working around it is beyond me, but they said they're going to. I went ahead and backed it on Kickstarter because I'd be very curious to see this. Obviously, it would be very handy to have an iPhone or an iPad as an external monitor if you just want to have a preview monitor. So we'll see what they come up with. But I don't remember the name of it. It doesn't matter because you can't buy it now anyway. But once that does land in my hot little hands, I will, of course, be covering it on this show. See anything in the question? Oh, in the comments, yeah, Field Monitor, Marvin, thank you very much. And Serge says G Monitor for Android, so that's another one to look at. So take a look at G Monitor for Android. Excellent. All right, there we go. Fabulous. Let us move on to the next question. Okay. Our next question comes from Day in Nature. Day in Nature is asking, I would love to create a YouTube live stream where we would have a remotely located guest, aka Skype call, or maybe there's something better. I do have a GH5 and a shotgun mic. Could you recommend how to set up such an event? Would prefer software solutions. Have pretty fast PC and super fast internet. Okay, so there's a couple things involved in doing this, and technically, I suppose it would be possible to do this all on one computer if your computer was fast enough, and probably if you had dual displays, it would make it a bit easier. But I'm going to be honest with you, don't. Just don't try to do it with just one computer. It's too much happening at once, and the risk of failure is way too high. Things just going wrong, your computer getting overclocked. It's just don't. Use two computers. Use one computer that's a Skype connection, and the other one that handles your switching, streaming, etc. If you're using something like Wirecast or OBS. So the way that I do it here, and I do this quite often here on the show or on other shows out of the studio, I have a dedicated computer. It's an old Mac Mini. It's nothing special. It's nothing fast. It's fast enough to run Skype. That's all that matters. And that Mac Mini is actually tethered into a monitor, which here I can show you this right now since we got this hooked up here. If you look at my thing in front of me, so see the computer down there, or see the screen down there. You can see right now it's a chat screen. That is what you see when I go into this split mode. So you're actually seeing half of this television right there. The other half has kind of show notes for me. If I swipe over, swipe somewhere, oh, I already quit it, but I could swipe over and have Skype running here full screen, and that would then allow me to have a conversation with someone where I'm looking at them full screen. I get a nice big picture of them in front of me, and the camera is slightly above the monitor. So it looks relatively like I'm looking at the camera. It's not perfect, but you know, it is what it is. The output from that Skype machine is routed into your switcher, whether it's a hardware, software switcher, whatever it is, as just another source. And then on your software or hardware switcher, then you can build a picture-in-picture, a split screen, whatever you want when you're doing a Skype conversation. So that's the way to do it. Have a second computer dedicated to doing your Skype conversation. I use it for my chat when I'm not doing Skype conversations, so that's how it's set up here. But basically dedicated to doing your Skype conversation, and then you can have that chat with that, and then your output to OBS or to Wirecast or to a hardware switcher is full screen from that computer, so them, and then yourself is coming in separately. Like I'm coming off of this camera, right? That camera I'm pointing at right now, that is feeding simultaneously to my switcher, and also from the switcher it's looping back out into the Skype, so when I'm having a conversation with someone on Skype, they are actually seeing me as they would expect to. So the camera is not plugged directly into my Skype computer, my chat computer. It is plugged into the switcher, and the switcher is outputting a signal to that. You could solve that a variety of ways. You could potentially, depending on the hardware, you might be able to use an HDMI splitter to send it directly into the Skype computer. You could loop it through as IM. You could use a second camera. There's a variety of ways to handle that, but end of the day, use two different computers to do your Skype conversation, and your life will be far easier. If you really, really have to do it with just one, I really think you're going to have dual screens so you can have your switching and streaming setup separate from your Skype setup, because basically what you're going to be doing in Wirecast, OBS, whatever, is you're going to be saying, take this screen and pipe that out and stream that out. And that screen obviously has to be separate from the one you're doing all the switching on, or your audience will see all the switching. Make sense? Hopefully that helps. Let's see here. Remember, please, to keep your questions related to the topic at hand today. Any off-topic questions we'll save for another day. All right, let's move on to the next question. Hold on, so I'm going to reread this question because this was a second part of a... Okay, yes, here we go. Our next question comes in from Kasper Nørgaard. Kasper says, I found the answer, but we can assume what the original question was. When you shoot in 180 or 120 VFR, variable frame rate, do you set the camera to 24p or 30 or 60? I noticed when I set the playback at 24, the footage is slower, but is there a difference on these other than the final playback? That's a really, really good question. This is one of those kind of fundamental of how VFR works questions, so it's great. It allows me to explain exactly how this works, and once I explain this, you'll know the answer. So VFR, or variable frame rate, is the ability in the GH5, GH4, other cameras made by the manufacturers as well, to shoot slow motion, right? And when you shoot slow motion, you can choose the frame rate that your video is shot at. Up to, on this camera, 180 frames per second if you're shooting in 1080p. If you're shooting in 4K, it goes up to 60 frames per second. Okay, so let's just say that I set it at 1080, I'm shooting 180 frames per second. The camera is capturing 180 frames per second of video. But it's not going to play it back at 180 frames per second, because then it would play back in real time, right? It would play back the same speed that it happened. It would just be really, really smooth video, really high frame rate. So that's not what we want. So you want to play it back slower, right? You play it back at a different frame rate. Well, choosing between 24, 30, or 60 is about your final output. If I am delivering a 30p show, if I'm going to edit in 30p, that's my final output, then I set the camera to record at 30p, but to shoot at 180p. And what happens is those 180 frames get mapped out, one frame gets mapped out per frame, over 30 seconds, over 30 frames per second instead of 180 frames per second. If we want to make that math easy, let's say you shoot at 60 frames per second in VFR, but you're recording to 30, that means you are recording at half speed. When you play it back, those 60 frames will take 2 seconds to play back at 30 frames per second, and it now plays back at half speed. The difference between going to 24, 30, or 60, well, again, do that simple math. If we shoot at 60 and we play back at 60, well, that's 1-to-1. We're not speeding up or slowing down or anything. If we shoot at 60, play back at 30, it's 2-to-1. It's half the speed. If we shoot at 60 and play back at 24, it's a little bit less than half. You can do the math on your own. It's a little bit less than half. It's a little bit slower than half. So the choice, if you want to have, if your objective is simply to have the slowest playback possible that looks, the most slow motion, you would shoot at 180 and play back at 24. That way you'd still get smooth video that your audience would accept as proper video that would be shot at the maximum frames per second. However, if you're not delivering a 24p show, then that doesn't make sense, because if you take that 24p, you drop it on a 30p timeline, you're going to be adding frames, it's not going to look as good. So you need to consider what you're actually delivering. But again, if you don't care what you're delivering, then 24 is going to give you the slowest setting. So it doesn't matter technically it doesn't matter as far as what you're shooting. You're always shooting at 180 frames per second, or whatever you've set it to. It's simply how the file is written to disk. Is it written at 30p, at 60p, at 24p, at 2398p, whatever it might be. Make sense? Hopefully that answers the question. Alrighty, let us move on. Good, quick. Ah, yes, okay. Our next question comes in from Milad Kasaian. I believe Milad is in the audience today. It says, "Hi Joseph, in burst mode and continuous autofocus, my GH5 can shoot 4 frames per second, but I read the GH5 can shoot 9 frames per second in continuous autofocus. Is it the SD card issue?" Explains what card he has, "or lens issue?" It is neither. It is neither the SD card nor the lens. It is simply a setting in the camera. So let me get this set up here. So he's in burst mode, continuous. So I'm going to set the knob on the top of the camera. Let's make sure that's... do I have, where is that? So it's the knob on the camera. Try and get that into view here. I did not plan on using this camera today. It is totally not set up. Where is it? Where is it? Come on. Oh, for crying out loud. I was like, my camera's pointing practically down at the table. There we go. Okay, now we're just waiting for it to focus. Did I put it back in autofocus? Apparently not. All right, come here, you. Oh, forget it. It's the knob on top of the camera. All right, it's the knob on top of the camera. The first one is the single frame, and the next one is the continuous. So I've just set that to continuous. Let me put the camera in continuous, and let me just reset a couple things here, and let's get this on screen for you to see. Why am I not seeing? Oh, because I'm in video mode. It would help if I got out of that. There we go. Okay. To this. There we go. All right, look in the top right corner. You see it says LV and then a little M next to it. Let me switch back to single. That has gone away. So just to the left of the battery, I realize this tiny little thing up there. You now see it says LV, that's live view medium. That's the medium shooting speed. I am in autofocus continuous. That means that the back of the camera, the switch on the back is set to AFC, and I am in multiple frame, whatever the heck it's called, single, not single shot, but multi-shot on here. Continuous shutter speed, continuous motor drive. It's not a motor drive. I forget what it's called. Anyway, continuous. Okay, so that's low. That's what he's talking about. Now, if I go into my Q menu, now my Q menu is customized, but that's okay. You'll still find the same thing in here. If I go into my Q menu, there is going to be a burst rate setting. Under burst rate, you have 3 options. You have live view low, live view medium, and live view high. So if I go to live view medium, this is probably where he's at. If we listen, let me set this to manual shutter. Here we go. Oh, good job. A manual shutter with a 4-second exposure. That was not very clever. Okay, let's let this finish its exposure. And it's doing noise reduction right now. Okay, now we set this back to a proper shutter speed. Obviously, we're not taking real pictures here. I'm just setting the shutter speed that's fast. It's good. There we go. Okay, so let's go back to this. Now, you can hear that. You can see it. That's the slow, well, the medium shutter speed, motor drive mode. Let's go into high burst rate, and now you hear it's considerably faster. If I switch it into manual focus, it's even faster. But your AFC continuous with the live view enabled is that. So the 9, see, he says 9 frames per second, continuous autofocus. I feel like I'm still missing something here. Live view high. Live view high, I think that's what we wanted. Yeah, live view high, that's what you want. I think that's where we're at. That's where we're at. I still feel like I'm missing something for some reason. Sorry, this question came in last minute. Yes, it came in a couple hours ago. So I didn't have time to do any research on it before, but that was what I was going for. Oh, I'm feeling like there's something I'm missing on there. Maybe not. Anyway, that's where the setting is. So look at your burst rate setting. If your burst rate setting is set the way you're still not getting what you expect, there's the manual focus option. If it's still not quite what you expect, shoot another comment in there, and I will try to get a better answer for you. I know that I covered this in my training, my full GH5 training course, but I'm like, I don't know where that was anymore. I don't remember what the settings were there. So check that out. If it wasn't the answer you're looking for, apologies, and we'll get you properly answered later on. That is all the questions in there. I now need to tell you about something else. So you guys have probably seen this thing popping up around the internet. It's called the 5-day deal. this is a big deal. I've been a part of this for quite a number of years. I do not have my own original content in it this year. I didn't last year either. But the 5-day deal, just to explain what this is, it's only for 5 days. Haha, go figure, hence the name. We're in day 3 or 4 right now, so this thing is almost over. But if you go to photojoseph.com/5-day deal, this will take you straight to it. It is a bundle. This is the 5th year running. This is a bundle that has $2,500 worth of photography-related content for $117. This is a big deal. The amount of money that is raised for charity through this, and that's a huge part of what this is enormous. In fact, I think, let me take a look. If I go to the website right now, I think it's going to tell me, if I go to their webpage where we're at with the charity right now. Let me pull this up and then I'll share the screen with you. Just waiting for this to load up. And where is the, does it say? Well, here, let's just go to this page. So here we're looking at the 5-day deal page. 96% discount. There's a little video there. Oh, it's been auto-stopped, the autoplay, because of High Sierra is now automatically doing that. Here we go. $81,000 raised so far in the first couple of days. There's 2 days left, so it's just over 2 days left, just over 48 hours left. You're getting, here's a list of the kind of things that you're getting. Actions for Photoshop, creative photo editing technique videos. There's lots of presets, lots of video training, lots of ebooks, lots and lots and lots of training and other photo-related stuff, photography-related stuff. It's super cool, right? It's a really good bundle. It is a really good deal, and we have donated, we have contributed, they have a total, let's see, $183 million in savings so far, and that's impressive. I'm trying to see if there's what we did last year on contributions to charity. It was massive, and I just don't remember what it is. This is a big web page. Oh, look, here's all the details of all the different things you're going to get. What you would have to pay if you bought all these things separately. These are the charities that we give money to, and there's not a full charity thing. Oh, here we go. We've contributed over $200,000 in charity bundles. I guess that's over the last couple of years. Anyway, whatever the stats are, it's enormous, it's huge, it's a great deal for you if you're interested in these things. Obviously, if you're not, then don't bother. But if you scroll through that, you'll find a lot of these things are worth just as much or more than even the single buy-in price. If there's 2 of these things that interest you, then it's a good deal. Obviously, no one's going to be interested in every single thing in there. But if you take a look at the ones that are in there, if you find a couple things that are interesting to you, then it's a really great deal. If you're going to buy it, you're probably getting a ton of emails about this. You might have already gotten a newsletter from me. If you're if you're on Trade Rack list, nailing list, you've got a few. It's everywhere. This thing is all over the internet right now. It's kind of like you can't really avoid it. But if you are a viewer of my show, if you like my show, then I would certainly appreciate if you use my link, photojoseph.com/5-day deal. But even if you don't, if you use somebody else's, that's fine. The whole thing here is you get a crazy killer deal, and we give a lot of money to charity. It's great. I'm not as involved this year as I have been in years past, just because I kind of got into it last minute. But check it out. If there's something you love on there, go grab it. It's totally worth the deal. It's totally a deal. It's really worth it if you're going to use it, obviously. So that's that. All right, let's. Sorry, this show. Let's hear. I think we just went kind of quickly. Let me go back through the comments and see. There were some questions that came up that were not necessarily related, and we'll see if we can address those. I'm starting to feel like I don't really want to break this show up anymore, which means the show is going to be really awkward and odd, but that's okay. Let's see here. Let me scroll back down to the comments, and we'll pull these up and see. And God, some of you guys are strange. Okay, Skate Tube says, am I working on a speed booster video? Not yet. I will. I know. I will. It's one of those things. It's a biggie. I did have a good weekend. Thank you, Andrew. And let's see, Bart talking about his live stream that failed over the weekend. That's such a bummer. It sucks when that happens. This is why I went hardware. It really is, because I just so many issues with it when I was trying to do it all software-wise. Marvin says, got my camera back of my son, and it's got a square in the top left display with EXPS. How do I get standard mode? I guess you mean back from your son. EXPS. A square in the top left display. EXPS. I don't know what EXPS means. I have no idea, Marvin. I've never heard of that before. I don't know. Honestly, I have absolutely no idea what EXPS even is. Maybe send me a picture. Just verify that's actually what it says and you're not like typoing it. Dewey Evans says, if using a GH5 for primary camera, what would you suggest for a second camera? another GH5. It depends on what you're shooting, right? If you're shooting the GH5 at 4K 60, then really the only second camera that's going to work is another one that shoots 4K 60, and that's going to be another GH5. If you're shooting 4K 30 or you're shooting 1080p or shooting something else, a GH4 is a great second camera, and you can get those on the cheap right now because obviously it's previous generation. You can get them used, so that would be a great option. If you want to buy a new camera, look at the G85. The G85 is a very good second camera for filmmakers, so I would suggest that. It's, I think, around $1,000, including a 12-60 lens, not the Leica. Don't get too excited. The basic 12-60. Yeah, G85. Look at the G85. Great second camera. Jeff Horton says, I have recently noticed a spot on the image inside of my viewfinder, not on the outside and not on the final pics. Dust? It sounds like a spot, like something worked its way into the viewfinder, which would be bad, but I mean, it's not affecting the image, so that's good. And these things are weather sealed. It's hard to imagine how dust gets into a place like that, but you know, things happen. If it's really bugging you, it sounds like you're gonna have to send it in for service. I don't even know how they would do that. I guess they could take it apart and clean that. Yeah, I mean, obviously make sure that your screen is, you know, totally clean, the viewfinder is totally clean, but yeah, sorry, I don't have a better answer for you. If it's not in the final picture, then it's not on the sensor, thank goodness. So it must just be, what did you say? I've recently just spotted the image inside the viewfinder. It's not on the outside, so I assume by not on the outside, not on the outside of the viewfinder. If you're not seeing it on the LCD monitor, which, I mean, if you were seeing it there, then it would be on the final image as well. So yeah, it must be something behind the glass on there. Yeah, what a bummer, sorry. Excuse me. All right, let's see here. We scrolled past that earlier. Around World says, is there any wireless flash trigger with high-speed sync and TTL for the GH5 available? Everything I can find is just for the GH4. Oh, if it says GH4, then it'll work with GH5. So it's just that they haven't updated their marketing. Yeah, if it works GH4, then it should work GH5. Obviously, keep your receipt in case it doesn't, but it should work. I haven't dug into all these third-party ones yet, especially not with GH5, but that's one of those many one of these days. David Hoying says, how do you edit the 400 megabit files from the GH5? Can't open them in Final Cut Pro. You should be able to. I honestly haven't shot any 400 megabit yet. I know that's like heresy, but I really haven't. Can't open them in the GH5 and Final. I can't open them in Final Cut. I don't know, what, are you getting an error? Are you seeing an offline media? Are they just not playing back? Tell me what you're actually seeing in Final Cut other than you can't open them. Because you can import anything into Final Cut, it's just what you actually see that shows up there. Okay, Milan is clarifying. He says, but Panasonic said you can get 9 frames per second in that mode, autofocus single AFF to AFF, and you're only getting 4 or 5 frames per second. I don't remember. I hear you. I hear you. And something, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Do me a favor. I'm sorry, Milad, this is not like the right answer to your question, but repost your question or just post a follow-up in the comments here. I will have to look into that offline because I'm not sure what's happening. What you're saying sounds right to me, but I'm not seeing it here either, so I got to look into that a little bit more. Good morning, Mark. Neil Higgins says, currently going through the Photography 101 course. Excellent, loving it, even more excellent. I have noticed your brown shoulder bag, just wondering where I could get one of them. It looks perfect and compact. That is an ONA bag, O-N-A. They're really expensive, but they're really nice little leather bags. I got it for doing things on camera because it looks so good, but I do love it. If you just want a small, good-looking bag that's, you know, it fits my look and style, so I love it. It's quite small, so it's not, you know, something you're going to carry a ton of gear around in, but it works great. It's a nice little bag. So ONA, O-N-A, look them up. I really like their stuff. Mark says, this is a big question. Come on, Mark. What is the best video tripod and head? I have a Manfrotto B-Free and traveling, use 2 GH5s. There are so many tripod and head combinations out there. There's no way to say best. I did a kind of a comprehensive-ish review on the N8 nitrogen head from Manfrotto because that was new and hot. And that was a pretty slick head. I really liked that one. So that's worth looking at. That's the only other kind of dedicated video head that I can say I have actually worked with and I really liked. But obviously Manfrotto makes tons of good stuff. Really Right Stuff makes great tripod heads. Excuse me. There's, you know, go based off the reviews, but there's so many different features and heads. You really just got to look for something that you like. And if you're going to work with multiple heads, try and get something that uses the same plates, so you can have, you don't have to take plates off if you're swapping around between tripods. That can be a bit of a time saver. Other than that, though, there's too many options. I can't give you a best. Oh, Dave Dale Studio is saying EXPS is the image effect filter. I think I saw something that I scrolled past that you figured it out, Marvin. But yeah, okay, good. So that's the image effect. So yeah, get out of that mode. There you go. That should be easy. Milad says, thank you. You're welcome. Sorry, it wasn't a very good answer. What's up with the Nitro head? I finished my review on that a while ago and sent it back. It's a great head. I loved it. So I highly recommend it. It was very smooth. Davey also says, I can't see the image after importing. See the images after importing. Talking about the 10-bit. Also doesn't show in DaVinci Resolve. Okay, well, you're not going to see it in the Finder. 10-bit doesn't play in the Finder. That's, at least it didn't in Sierra. I haven't tried it in High Sierra yet. That was just 10-bit. But they played in Final Cut, the 10-bit. Again, the 400 megabit I haven't worked with yet. If you can't see the images after importing, it doesn't show in DaVinci Resolve either. Yeah, I don't know, Davey. I guess I'm going to have to try it out. I'm going to have to shoot something and try it out. Post a comment down here on this video later. We'll follow up on that later. Sean Mark Nipper says, Premiere Pro can edit H.265, but Final Cut has not upgraded yet to edit H.265. Oh, is the 400 megabit H.265? Is that? Maybe that's why. Sean, you may have solved the question here. Put this into video mode. That may very well be the issue. Set this up properly. And let's go to 400 megabit. Is that what it is? Is it H.265? It doesn't actually say on here. It just says HLG available, which is H.265. Or maybe that's it. Maybe that's the case. If it is H.265, then that's the problem. So Sean Mark Nipper would win the day with that answer, if that's the case. There you go. Mark says, yeah, so many options on tripods. I know. Look into the N8. Would like to stay with Manfrotto. It's a great Manfrotto head. You know, B&H, I'll tell you this much. When you're shopping for tripods, B&H obviously has a huge selection. Their reviews are always good to go by. But ask their tech support. Their pre-sale support. If you have specific needs of what you want, you have a specific budget, shoot them an email. They'll give you options. I think B&H's pre-sale support is fantastic. So I would check in with them. James Nono says, I've been using Canon, but I'm planning to switch to the GH5. Good man. Can you give me good reasons why GH5 is better in videos? Oh, please, come on. 4K 60p, 400 megabit internal, Vlog, hybrid log gamma, it's HDR built in. Those are some of the top ones that jump out at me. Video capabilities of the GH5 are second to none out there without spending adding another zero to the price tag. So, yeah, I think you'll be off to a good choice. Be off to a good start there. Okay, all right, that's that, folks. Remember, check out the 5-day deal. Just go check it out. If find out if it's interesting or not. PhotoJoseph.com/5-day deal. Let me know if you have any questions about it. It's like I said, it's a pretty sweet deal. It's a pretty sweet little bundle. Do check that thing out. It's only available for less than 2 more days. Depending on when you're watching this, it might already be gone. In which case, sorry. But yeah, it's a good stuff. Go check that out. I just decided we're not going to chop this video up. What a mess. This is going to be a disaster of a video, but Ryan will drop the time codes in. You'll have links to the, well, it's a little bit late to be telling you that by now. You've watched the whole video. But hey, that's the way it is. Just one of those days. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.